Ken and Nicole for the invitation to be here today. And I was just laughing. I'm going to talk about work-life balance, and I actually have a lot of great things to talk about, although I'm probably not doing the best job anymore in work-life balance. I have been some successful in the past. So let's talk a little bit about how you get to be successful. Well, you work hard all of your life. You've been successful in training. And then what do you get to do for that success? You get to do research or find more cases, spend time with your patients and get to know them and really develop the doctor-patient relationship. You may teach, you may do writing. And really, all these things that you love start to fill up your life. You try to fit in other things. You can actually combine a little work and pleasure with hanging out with friends and learning about new things. You may try to go do some of your fun stuff, music for me, and sailing with the family are a couple things that I really enjoy, ski trips. But it gets crazy about the amount of stuff you try to pack in, and there's really no space. So what I'm going to go through a little bit is what's the right things for balance. And these are kind of the key things that I've found is streamlining at work. Try to set up something that's supportive for you at home. Combining work and fun, like we get to do at Sages, so that's why this is a great society. Multitask and be efficient. So let's talk a little bit about what streamlining at work is. For me, one thing I've found that's very effective is if you can combine your research interests in terms of other stuff that you're interested in so that you're basically doing research while you're doing your other activities. That's a really smart way to do it. Study your teaching techniques if you're working in an academic center. Doing clinical trials that can help you build your clinical practice. I'm doing a couple bariatric device trials, and I get a lot of interest, and my patients are asking about this, and it really helps with my marketing just to do these studies. Other things that you need to do is pick the right practice. And there are a lot of huge opportunities in how you can set up a practice, and I found that if you get great partners and you're willing to share the calls, so how I set it up, if I'm not on call, I'm not on call, and I can go spend time with my family, I can go to meetings, and I have partners I can trust to take care of patients when I'm not there. Not every practice is like that. I know even people in our audience I've talked to take a lot more ER call. If they get phone calls from somebody, they'll take care of it. What I do is I'll say, oh, this is great, I'll take care of your patient. Do you mind if my partner who's on call tonight does? And usually that works out fine, and we set up our practice as what they refer to rather than the person. And so that still builds us as an academic organization, but doesn't inundate any of us when we're not on. I also think if you have the right job, you can be flexible in your scheduling. And we even have set up, at my institution, I've hired somebody part-time, which is kind of unusual in surgery, but we've set up a practice where she can get 1 and 3 weeks completely off. And I think that kind of thing can be really important if you have other things you want to do in your life. You also, if you want to do a lot of research or if you want to do a lot of administrative work, it's nice to have chunks of time actually in your schedule for that so that you're not doing that in your evenings and weekends. So also think about clinical focus, what you like to do. Try to put your OR days together if you can and do procedures that patients stay less. So luckily we're minimally invasive surgeons, this is what we do. And in general, that works out well. But if you're doing big cases, you can't do them when you're planning to travel and have that headache sitting over your head. I don't do big revisions right before I leave for a meeting. And some of those are the things that help my schedule better, too. Also, I think with any new job or any current job, set up adequate help so that when a patient calls in, it can get streamlined through somebody who can triage those phone calls for you. Maybe a resident or a fellow, maybe a PA or a nursing assistant. But those are the kind of things that can help really set you up. Also, what's needed for success? What are the end goals that you're working towards? Talk to the people that you work with and figure out what are going to be the things that'll get you more money, more free time, better schedule, and how do you get promoted? And the best way is to actually have this as an open conversation, and that helps balance so you're not doing things that you think are important and your boss thinks really don't matter. So look at what your promotion criteria are so you can work towards the right valuable things. Also, I have kids. I love being able to hang out with my kids. I love getting to see their important events in life. And part of that is I have to plan those things in and put them as a block on my calendar that is taboo for anything else. So vacations, sporting events, fun, exercise, whatever those things are, if you block them on your schedule, they hopefully will be kept sacred. Some of the things can be fun. Like I actually take my whole work team out. My son's an actor and he does musicals, so I'll take my whole work team out. We make it as a team event. And then my son feels supported and the team has fun. So you can do things like that that are a great way to really meet all those goals. Another thing that's important, and this is something that Patricia Turner gave me that I think is actually really, really helpful, and this is, how do you figure out what these things are? And she made these 4 quadrants, and I think they're really smart. Is it urgent or not urgent? And is it important or not really important? And different things you do really fit into these categories. So what's urgent and important? Okay, so your patient has free air. Probably need to take care of that right away. Pressing personal problems too can be that way. Deadlines, they probably become urgent and important. So when you had to get your SAGEs talked in, because you actually have to go give the talk, that's urgent and important. Not urgent is the talk 3 weeks ahead of time. So you've got a little flexibility when you do it. Planning for promotion, very important, obviously not urgent. You can push that off a day or two, but you can't forget about it. And I put in here relationship building and maintenance, because if you don't take care of that, then it can become a crisis too. So those things all have to go somewhere in here. What's not important but urgent? There's actually a lot of things that we get that are that way, that somebody tells you there's some crisis, but it's really not a crisis that you have to deal with. They're really not a crisis for you. So sometimes you can triage those to somebody else. Sometimes you can stratify those things so that they're not going to completely disrupt your schedule. And many emails, one of my pet peeves is when somebody's having some crisis and they copy you on the crisis, but you're really not involved, but it starts blowing up your whole email and can really disrupt your day if you let it. So you have to really triage those things. And then category 4, not urgent, not important, but things you can't completely forget about. So busy work. I see people play Candy Crush and kind of get stuck on that. That's probably a waste of time. Other escape activities like that. And there's some irrelevant things that you may have to do, some meetings, maybe doing your online training that you have to do at some point in the year that you don't feel is very important, but you do have to cite it in sometimes. So those are the things that you have to figure out how to take care of all these different things. So what do? Quadrant 1, get those things done. They come in front of you, just get them done. And if you don't take care of them, they can become more and more urgent. So really try not to procrastinate. Quadrant 2, these are things that make you more valuable, so don't forget these things. They also keep you happier, because your happiness at home is important. So those things you have to try to regularly figure out how to fit them in and regularly take care of them. Quadrant 3, these are the things that are urgent but not important. Remember that they're not important and really try to figure out and triage these so you don't get bogged down with those activities. And quadrant 4, maybe you can get rid of Candy Crush. Take those things off your list. Those are probably things you shouldn't be doing. So what do you do in your life that's really not important? Well, try to make yourself efficient and minimize that wasted time. So things that I think are things that you can get support for at home that can be in that category. So these are some of those things. Hire help. You do not need to be doing your laundry. You do not need to be cleaning toilets. You all make enough of a living that you can hire somebody to do that. Do that, unless you enjoy it. Like, I like yard work, so for me, I don't put yard work help unless it's doing the big mulching at the beginning of the season. But I do like planting new stuff and trimming things. So figure out what you like and keep it, but if you don't like it, hire somebody to do it so it's not something that's sucking up your free time. And then in relationship building and setting up your family, really work with your spouse to be a good partner. Schedule that family time so they don't feel like they're always getting put down in your lower priority quadrants. If you have younger kids and you need a child care provider, make sure that that's somebody who you feel like can be the third parent, and bring them in, include them as a third parent, and be willing to trust them, because you're going to have to triage some of their growing up and development of your kids to this person. And we had a great time. We had au pairs. They lived with us. They're part of our family. We've actually visited them around the world now, which has been a really awesome experience for us. We're a very boring American family, and now we're very multicultural with our au pairs. So that's been a great experience for us. And also, I think something that's hard to realize but is really true is understand you're not going to be perfect. You're going to screw up on all kinds of different things, and so you're going to have to learn to give yourself a little leeway and give your family a little leeway, because these things, you know, it's going to happen. So what else can you do is increase family time. And this was hard sometimes. I go and take the 6 a.m. flight so I can stay and have dinner the night before with my family, or I'll fly home on the red eye so I can be home as quickly as possible. And those things make my husband very happy, because he realizes I'm making personal sacrifices to help him. I do sometimes come home if I have extra work to do. Instead of staying an hour or two later in the office, I'll actually come home, have dinner with the family, and then do the work afterwards or get up earlier the next morning. And that way I can still give the priority time to the family. So we really try to have breakfast and dinner together most nights, and most nights we're successful with it. And I think something that a lot of parents do is they prioritize the kids so much they forget their partner. So it's also important that you make sure that you do date nights and slide those in, commit the time, find some event that you like to do with your spouse that you did early on, and continue to do that as you get along in your relationship as well. So I think those are kind of the key things there. So how else do you make it work? Again, you're going to screw up. Other people are going to screw up, and just try to keep a sense of humor. Try to keep things light. Don't let things bog you down. Have lots of options available, and I think this is something I do in my life. I'm busy with a lot of different things, and sometimes something might be really bogging you down and really pissing you off, to be honest. And if you have other things that you can invest in when you're really not wanting to deal with something, that's okay, and I think that helps keep you balanced and keep your sense of humor. And be flexible, because these things are going to come. We're surgeons. Things will completely derail your plans, and that's okay, and we just have to learn to roll with it. Also, you get a lot of cool opportunities, and it may not be something that you thought you could fit in. One opportunity was, for me, my partner had this great speaking opportunity in Ecuador when I was a pretty junior faculty, and he realized he got altitude sick, so I actually took my whole family with less than 2 weeks' notice to Ecuador and spent 10 days, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. So you just got to take them and roll. And sometimes, and this is more and more frequent as you get older, you do need to say no. So some of the things that are really fun is combining the work with fun. Sage's picture down there at the bottom. A couple of really neat opportunities I've had, seeing old au pairs in Brazil with my daughter when I was speaking down there. Neat little things that you can do that are fun. This was actually a David Ratner word, Opium, that means on other people's money, which is nice when you have those opportunities and it doesn't suck out the family bank. I also do try to exercise with my family. I'll take my daughter and my son out, drag them all for a nice 9-mile hike this weekend. They loved me for that. Go to the school functions if you can, schedule in fun and family time. So again, with that, I think you could be successful and have really great opportunities. So prioritize things. Is it going to help your career? Will you enjoy it? Will your family like it? What will you miss? And if it's not good, don't do it. So it's tough to be everything. Pick what's important to you. Pick where you want to go. If you don't like what you're doing, rethink it. Maybe you should be doing something different with your life. If you're not happy in your work, reevaluate that. And I think if you take those things and really prioritize what's important, you're going to be great and successful. So good luck.